let you know that it's not as easy to be able to reduce expenses as easy as we say it sometimes. Oh, they just wasting money. They just need to do that or whatever. But it's very hard. So, to be able to wrap things up, tonight we talked about 3 myths about municipal finances. Hopefully you've learned that money doesn't grow on trees. We do not have a money tree in the back out there. It would be very nice if we had one that I could walk out the door and pull some hundreds and fifties and go to BB&T and put it in the bank and be able to finance some of that stuff, but we don't have a money tree. Number 2, you have to increase your fees and your taxes to be able to keep up with the expenses that you have coming in. Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up being in the red. And the final thing is, it's not easy to just cut expenses. Because a lot of the expenses that we have, we're locked into those expenses. I want you to remember that 80% of our expenses is in salaries. And once you get that 1 year in with the personnel board, I mean, unless you steal or kill somebody, you're here. So we just have to find another place, you know, to be able to make sure that you can be productive. But those are the challenges that we have here as a city. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Hopefully you've learned at least one thing. Whenever I go to a workshop, I try to pick up one thing, and I try to leave with that and see how I could use it or implement it. So hopefully there's one thing that you picked up from that. Also, I want to make sure that you read that report from S&P, because one of the things that it talked about, and I didn't get into it, is that although we have a strong rating, one of the areas that we need to improve in is the amount of debt that we carry as a city. We have about $45 million in debt. So that's a lot of debt for 12,347 people. But we're going to work towards making sure that we can reduce that. And with a lot of these bond issues, it's very hard to be able to, I mean, you just can't take a lot of money and say, hey, we're going to send it into the Bank of New York and pay it down like you do it on your house. You have to wait till the bonds are called, or you can refund the bonds at a lower rate, like how we did. And by the way, we received $370,000 from refunding the issue with Trinity. So I'll leave about 5 minutes for Q&A if anybody have any other questions. And then if our council president or Councilor Sanderson have something that they want to add, they can be able to put that little part in as well. So, do anybody else have any other questions? Okay.
We no longer have a grant writer for the city, or that writes grants for the city. The lady from Atlanta was doing it for us, and that stopped. Why? I mean, I thought she was writing grants and bringing us money. What happened?
The city moved in a new direction with a new group, which was called Alla Grants, to be able to write the grants for the city. But they're no longer writing grants for the city, but they are helping us to manage a few grants that we have. But that's what happened with the grant writer's position.
So there's no.
Has that been fruitful?
It has. A lot of the grants that the city has received has not been because of the writing of the grants. I mean, receiving grants is just like having relationships in any other business endeavor. So a lot of it has had to do with the relationships that the city has had with individuals that were in a position to be able to help the city. And you do need the grant writer to be able to write the grant, dot all the I's and the T's and all of those things. But a lot of it has been done more by the relationship than I would say by the actual just writing of the grant. I mean, very few cold grants, you know, are accepted. You gotta know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. So really writing grants is no different than any other business deal that is all about relationships. So we are looking in the next fiscal year to see how we're going to be able to fill that position. Then I can have a conversation with the council and see how they want to move forward with it.
Because I know there were a number of police grants available and some fire grants available.
The fire department
Did they evaporate or what?
Well, the fire department in Bradford answered this, with those fire department grants, the fire department did a lot of that work themselves for those grants. And the police department on the other side did the same thing. I'm not saying that the grant writer didn't do their job, but those departments found a lot of those grants and then turned it over to the grant writer to prepare the grant.
How about our, well, who does the plants, the bushes, trees here in the city? Are there any grants available for that? And shouldn't we be using grant money for that instead of budgeted monies?
I don't know, Cal. I don't have the answer to that one for you tonight. But, we'll try to get it for you, but I don't have the answer to it.
James, I can partially answer that. And it qualifies for some of the ones where we try to get grants for additional wells for the city. When you're a metropolitan area rather than a totally rural area, there's almost nothing available for what you said or for like getting additional wells or water systems. We had talked with county commissioners during the last term about that, and with grant writers, they had recommended that we would have paid per the grant, but they actually couldn't come up with anything that they thought there was enough hope with us being a metro area. Now, what James said, though, I would echo, for example, the recycling bins, our grant, that grant was totally written for the city at no cost to the city by the Alabama Environmental Council. We didn't pay a cent. They wrote it for us. We got $35,000 worth of recycling bins. So it's just as James really said, if people in the city or elected officials in the city maintain relationships with the people who either do these grants on a regular basis or actually approve the grants, then we can probably still get our share no matter who our grant writer is, or even if we use one to write everything. You can also, if a new individual grant comes in, Cal, you can contract somebody just to write that specific grant. Now, you know, if you got, it might be a little cheaper to do one-on-one versus sending in 20, but then you have so many for fire and police that they're year after year after year recurring, that they have the capabilities pretty much to do their own, and that has saved money there, and that would normally be included in what a grant writer would do. I'm sure it's additional work for somebody, Brad in fire, and I'm not sure who with the police anymore, but you know, those are annual grants that you apply for year after year or every other year type grants, and those can be pretty much based on previous year information to some extent.
We did have maybe about 3 or 4 council meetings ago where the police department is using a grant writer that only writes for police departments. And we only had to pay $1,600 for those grants to be written. So we have talked about trying to identify grant writers that work in specific departments. Like, are there individuals out there that only write them for fire? Are the only people that write them out there for police? It's people out there that write them for public works, because those are the biggest expenses that we have, is fire, police, and public works. So we have talked about identifying those specialists that work in those departments to be able to write grants.
And if I can add to that, I think there's one more grant that we have available to fill out. It's the Alabama Power Tree Grant. I know we have gotten it several times in the past, even when I was on council before, we have gotten a grant from Alabama Power. And with the new well that we're digging, we're coming up with, plus some of the new areas, improvements that we're doing at Beacon Park, we will also be eligible for the tree grant, since you specifically asked about the tree grants. The Alabama Power has, and the only thing that we have to do is fill out that application, which we're in the process of doing now. And that's just built on relationships that we have with corporations within the city of Birmingham.
So as you can see, we need everybody, because everybody's important. And if you all heard the thing about 6 degrees of separation, you're only six people away from getting to where you need to be. So all of us can take our relationships that we have and move them out in the community. We're probably only 5 people away from getting to the place where we need to get. Cal, you've been active tonight. You have another question?
I'm gonna shut up for the moment.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
I will just make a statement.
Okay.
We're having a yard sale at the senior center on Saturday, and we do have our license.
Okay.
I
Lisa came.
I just texted her and verified that from my mouth.
Lisa came and got her license.
I'm proud of her.
Yeah, so I don't have to walk around up there to make sure y'all have your license for that. But yes, if you put it on the garage sale, and I guess now because I'm aware of it, I kind of laugh because, you know, sometimes when I'm riding home, especially on Fridays, everybody puts out their signs that they have a garage sale. But I know they haven't came in and got a permit. And sometimes I think about, I'm just gonna ride up there on Saturday, but I said, no, they only cost $10. So I'm like, we're trying to be enforcers, but we don't want to be that strict.
So now does that mean the inspector's gonna be going around, we have a lot of people that cut yards, so are they going to be probably contacting some of those people? Because there's a lot of
Yes.
yard cutting going
Yes.
on, and I've talked to some people that do it. They said they've never been approached by anybody in Irondale. I know in Fairfield and other cities, they've stopped people in the middle of the yard.
Okay.
You know, so.
Yeah, Greg Gidley is the individual that's out, that's usually doing for nuisances, but also for the revenue as well. We don't have really that should be our revenue examiner. We have a senior revenue position. Part of that position is riding through the community and making sure that everybody has their license. But we use Greg Gidley so far. If anybody's out, I mean, even if people are out in public works, I mean, I would say the guys on the back of the garbage truck see more than anybody, because they're riding through the neighborhood, you know, all the time. So sometimes they'll be out on their route. They'll call Greg and say, hey, we just passed by this house where somebody's getting a roof put on. Can you go up there and make sure, you know, so we all really have to work together. But it's amazing how everything is really tied together at the end of the day.
If I could add one thing for Marvin and everybody else's benefit, if you really want to get rid of door-to-door salesmen for magazines and everything else, when they come to your security door, ask to see their Irondale business license before you will buy anything for them to do business. Oh, well, I can call somebody now and get you one, just wait.
Yes, you have to, I think it's a 30-day license that you have to have for solicitation.
So that is a good way to get rid of unwanted door-to-door solicitation.
And we did make the guy that we hired while he had his hip replacement, I had my knee replacement, we made him come down here and get a license to do our yard, so we wouldn't get in any trouble.
We saw because he added the amount of the license onto our contract. Gotta add this.
We appreciate that. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Greg, do you have anything you want to say for it?
I would just like to say to everyone, first of all, I think I'd like to applaud James for taking the time and effort to do this. I think it is very helpful, and to anyone who ever has any financial questions or questions about what's done or recommendations, other than contacting James, whether you live in District 3 or not, you're more than welcome to email or call me. Being old and retired, I got nothing better to do than talk to you anyway.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. As I stated earlier, I hope that there's something that you've been able to glean, that when you walk out the door, you're more empowered than you were when you came through the door. This will not be the last time, but this will be the first time. And every quarter, we will try to have a town hall meeting just to allow you to be able to come in and to ask questions. So, Cal?
Can we get an explanation of the annual budget before it's voted in?
Yes. Would you like for the council to hold a town hall meeting on the budget before they actually approve?
That would be excellent, and put it on the city's website.
Okay, we can do that. It's not, I think, operational at this time, but there's going to be a financial report card that's on the front page of the website. And every month, we're going to take the revenue and the expenses and show you what the bottom line figures. So, but I will make that recommendation to the council that before they pass it, if they will have a town hall meeting, allow the citizens to come in and to be able to give input, because really the budget is a reflection of how the citizens want the city see the city be able to move forward in the fiscal year. So
I vote yes.
One other thing, is there any way we can get the city council meeting agendas out at least 4 days before the meeting?
We're working on that, Cal, with a new ordinance that the city council will probably pass tomorrow at the special council meeting. One of the things that's in there is that if they do not have to meet by Tuesday at 5 o'clock, what is going to go on the agenda, then it won't go on the agenda. And my goal is to make sure that when I walk out the door on Thursday, at whatever time I walk out, that I send all of that information to everybody, because I don't like being here on Fridays and Saturdays doing it either. So we have decided that they'll get it to me by Tuesday, and I'll make sure that I get it to everybody by Thursday.
Super.
And when he sends it out, I'll make sure I put it on the site. The agenda for tomorrow's special session is already on the website. Under government, city council, there are city council pages, and you'll see their agendas.
And if you get my newsletter, you got it too, because we sent out one for the special meeting right before we came down here.
So we'll definitely do a better job of getting that.
And we need fewer special city council meetings. It just adds to the time we're away from home. We give up to be here to be good citizens. So,
You know who you can take that on there?
tell me.
The man that's sitting right there.
He has nothing to do with it. I've already fussed.
Unfortunately, they don't let me sell.
With your council representative and your husband, you can take it up with,
No, I get no
Okay.
results from that. So I mean,
well,
there's just.
well, the thing is with that,
more and more
Kathy,
of them call.
if the mayor or the presiding officer or two councilors get together and decide that that's what they want to do,
I got better things to do than
I
be here
know.
every week for
I
science.
know.
So do I, I'm on the council.
But I'll pass that information.
Thank
on.
you.
I'll pass that information.
Thank you.
Well, thank everybody for coming, and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night if you may. Appreciate it.